Ever heard of a psychic detective? You know, someone who says they use their, let's say, special talents to help solve crimes.
Right.
Well, that's what we're diving into today. The story of Zach Martin. His name, it's practically synonymous with this whole psychic detective thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? This whole idea of using intuition in investigations.
Totally. And today, we're going way back to 1980s Ireland for a case that had the whole nation on edge. The disappearance of Elizabeth Plunkett.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, from a seaside town called British Bay. Now, what makes this case really stand out is Zach Martin.
Okay.
He was just starting to get noticed for his, well, supposed psychic abilities.
Yeah, at that time, his first book, it was already a bestseller, translated into all these languages.
Right, and he was already doing public appearances, demonstrating ESP and stuff. He wasn't just some local fortune teller.
No, not at all.
This guy was attracting international attention. And in the Plunkett case, his visions, as he called them, they went way beyond just vague feelings or whatever.
How so?
He gave the police these incredibly specific details.
Really?
Yeah, and if these accounts were accurate, these details lined up with the crime before the police ever released that information publicly. So picture this. Elizabeth Plunkett, a young woman on holiday, vanishes near the beach. The police are looking into all sorts of angles, right?
Right.
But Martin, he just comes in and says, no, she's dead, murdered, 2 men, a car.
Wow. That's a pretty bold statement to make right off the bat.
A bit chilling, right?
Definitely.
And he doesn't stop there. He goes on to describe seeing this car near a lake in his vision.
Okay.
Which is strange because at this point, they haven't found Plunkett's body, and there's been zero mention of a lake.
So he's giving details that aren't publicly available. It's those kinds of specifics that make these psychic detective stories so captivating for people, you know?
Absolutely. And the details, they just keep coming. Martin says they use some kind of blue or gray material to hide the body. Maybe sackcloth or plastic, he said. Even described seeing a bar or a stake near the scene.
He's painting a very vivid picture. A bit creepy, if you ask me.
Totally creepy. Then they find Plunkett's body. It was in shallow water, wrapped in a pale blue sleeping bag, weighed down with a broken lawnmower.
Oh, wow.
And remember the stake he mentioned?
Yeah.
A broken lawnmower handle.
It's a pretty startling correlation, I have to admit. But of course, whenever we're dealing with claims like these, you've got to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Oh, for sure. But hold on, because we're just getting started.
Oh.
Right as things start to settle down from the Plunkett case, guess what happens? Another young woman, Mary Duffy, goes missing. Same county, County Mayo. And once again, the police suspect foul play.
Really?
Similar brutality to the Plunkett case.
So does Martin come into play again? With another one of his visions?
You bet. But here's where it gets even wilder. This time, he doesn't just have a vision. He uses a dowsing pendulum over a map of Ireland.
Dowsing, huh? That old practice of using a forked stick or a pendulum to find hidden things underground, like water sources.
Exactly. So picture this. Zach Martin, pendulum in hand, hovering over this map.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And where does it lead him? Galway.
Galway.
Right to Galway City Center.
Interesting. And why is that significant?
Because the police, at this point, they're focused on a totally different area.
Really?
Yeah, they'd had sightings of the main suspects, 2 men, somewhere else entirely. So Galway wasn't even on their radar.
Wow. Okay, so you have the police following leads in one place, and you've got Zach Martin with his dowsing pendulum pointing them towards Galway.
It's a real head-scratcher for the police. Traditional investigation versus, something a little less conventional.
Yeah, you've got to wonder what went through their minds.
Right. On one hand, they've got their methods, and on the other, there's this claim of psychic abilities?
Exactly.
But you know what? They decide to check out Galway anyway, just to be sure.
Makes sense. Even with an unusual lead like that, you don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Especially in a case like this. And guess what? They find the 2 suspects, John Shaw and Jeffrey Evans.
No way.
Right there in Galway City Center. Just like Martin's pendulum said.
Wow. You talk about a coincidence, or maybe proof of something we don't fully understand yet. I don't know. It really makes you think.
It really does. And it doesn't stop there. Get this. Shaw and Evans confessed to both murders, Plunkett and Duffy.
Oh, no.
And they admit they were planning on killing more women.
That sends chills down my spine. A stark reminder of what's at stake in these cases.
This whole Zach Martin story, it really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
It's definitely one of those things that captures your imagination.
Like Truth is stranger than fiction, right?
Okay.
And sometimes it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. We've been talking about unconscious perception and how our brains might be connecting dots without us even realizing it, but what if there's more to it than that?
Right. What if there are other ways of sensing the world that we haven't figured out yet? It's a question that's fascinated people for ages.
Yeah, and it's not just about the how, it's about the why. Why do some people, like Zach Martin, claim to have these abilities while others don't?
That's where things get a little murky. Some theories suggest it's psychological, maybe some individuals are just hardwired for vivid imagery, intuition, or they're just super sensitive to subtle clues.
So maybe we all have these abilities to some extent. It's just that some people are more tuned in.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Maybe we haven't even scratched the surface of what humans are capable of.
Makes you think about all those other cases Martin worked on. I mean, it wasn't just those murders in Ireland. He consulted on tons of cases all over the globe.
Hundreds of cases. That's incredible.
From missing persons to those big mysteries that grab headlines. And then there was his involvement with the Notting Hill rapist case in London.
Sounds like his insights, or at least his alleged insights, were in high demand.
No kidding. So where does that leave us? Is there something to this whole psychic detective thing? Or is it all a bunch of nonsense?
I guess that's the beauty of it, isn't it? We're left with more questions than answers. But those questions, they keep us curious. They make us want to learn more, dig deeper, challenge what we think we know.
I like that.
The world's a strange and wonderful place, full of mysteries. And what we understand about it is always changing.
Well said. And for those listening who are ready to dive in deeper, there's so much out there to discover. If psychic detectives have piqued your interest, check out other famous cases like the one involving Peter Hurkos. Or if you're curious about the science behind psychic phenomena, parapsychology is a fascinating field to explore.
And remember, getting to know your own mind is important too.
So true. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we urge you to hold on to that sense of wonder. Keep asking questions, be open-minded, and who knows what you might uncover. Until next time, happy exploring.